This video contains subject matter that may be offensive and disturbing to some people. If you are the type to require a warning throughout a video or show, let this be your warning. This channel discusses the harsh reality of true crime. If this warning is not sufficient for you, consider a different genre and unsubscribe from my channel immediately. Hey, what's going on? Got the dog camera going. Oh, hey, thanks again, Zozo. Hello everybody, look, I'm going to be on a reality TV show. I've got a media license. I'm going to be a rocket scientist. Yeah. Now, actually, I'll tell you guys the truth about every single thing that I do on this show, okay? Every single thing that I do. I'll actually tell you the truth, all right? That's just the difference. There's a difference between me and some other people out there that are just out-and-out grifters their entire lives. That's all they do. They try to trick people into believing something about them for another reason. And I'm not one of those people. Yeah. So, well, tonight I was going to go over this really old cold case, you know. So some of you will probably be bored with it, but it's one that probably hasn't been talked about for 40 years, I would imagine. Yeah, and then what I was going to say also is, I don't know if all the moderators are here, but I want every single comment that anybody makes, you need to leave in the chat, unless they are an actual troll coming in where they bash me or the channel. You leave it up. Even if they say really dumb things, just, you know, let them say what they say, get into a debate with them and all that kind of stuff. But I don't want, like, you guys insulting. I mean, look, I am the way I am when I see something stupid, right? But you guys need to be the sort of the ambassadors, if you will, of the channel, right? So somebody comes in, you know, be welcoming, I guess. But, like, there's some crazy crap that goes on sometimes that I see. And also, all of the moderators, you know, you don't need to roll your eyes at the other moderators or anything like that. Just, they're doing what they're doing, all right? But when people start deleting comments that are just dumb comments, you know, stupid questions, really. Hey, Gray, there's no such thing as stupid. No, there are. There really are stupid questions out there. I'm not one of the people that subscribes to the there's no such thing as a stupid question. There really are dumb questions, right? Like somebody today, somebody named Ron, in the comments section of last night's show, hey, thanks, Adacore 21. Or Adacore 21. Yeah, some idiot named Ron claimed to be a cop at one point, or in, you know, quote, in law enforcement. Right, he's probably the janitor at the building. But yeah, he was in the law enforcement building. Right, but he was in there and he was saying stuff like, what was it? You know, about the case that we talked about last night. He wondered, you know, he said that Shannon didn't really say that she drove past and watched her. And it's like, no, she did 100 times. I saw it. I listened to it. She said exactly what we said she said. She said she drove by, she dropped her daughter off at the bridge, drove and turned around, then drove by and went down the street a little bit and looked in the rearview mirror to make sure that she was heading in the direction of their home. Really clear, really obvious. And the person just kept saying, well, why did they go that direction and then turn around? And I said, I don't know. People just do things. So today when I called her up to tell her about the donation and send her an email with the map location of the trailer, I asked her the same thing. I go, this guy is asking about this. And she goes, I go, why did you end up doing that? And she said, I don't know. There isn't really a reason. I just drove past and then turned around. And I go, yeah, that's exactly what I told this guy. See, there's people that get too into the analysis part. Like, they want to analyze every freaking thing. Like, why did he step on the ground with his left foot first? That's a perfect analogy. Hey, why did he step on the ground with his left foot first? I don't know, you know? Can you assign a nefarious reason for that? That he stepped on the ground with his left foot? No, but I need to know why the left foot. You know, it's really weird. See, they're getting out of the right side of the car, and then he put his left foot on the ground. Wouldn't you normally put your right foot? God. Yeah, yep. Normally you might put your right foot out if you're exiting on the right side. But if you did put your left foot down, it doesn't mean anything. You know, try to have a point to something. Hey, how's it going? Funny Lady 76. Yeah, so I blocked that idiot and removed the entire comment thread. It wasn't worth it. Cindy Lean was in there. I don't know if Bush and Beach Lifestyle was in there or not, but there was one other person that commented. Thanks, Barbara Smith. Hold on a second. I gotta show you guys something. Some people probably didn't see this, but oh, there it is. All right, look at that, everybody. There's Barbara Smith. Woohoo! Of course, it's flipped. You got to flip it horizontally. Thanks, Barbara Smith and Noel Girl. All right, there's Barbara Smith. And look how awesome this is, though. Colleen Fitzpatrick. Oh, wait, you can't see anything. Sorry. Shit. Hold on. I'll show you Colleen first, since you can't see. Nobody typed in look at. Oh, yeah. I'm saying look at. There's Colleen right there, with the We Are Freaks sweatshirt on, and the a Watched Pig Never Boils mug. I sent it to Dan. I don't know if he got it or not. Yeah, I sent him the image right from the email. And then I'll show you again Barbara Smith. There we go. There she is. Oh, there's another picture in there. These are all pictures in a folder. It looks like this. Each folder, I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 8 folders, and those all rotate around in that screen that I have. But there's Barbara Smith right there. Yeah, so there you go. It's so cool though. She was so enthusiastic. She goes, "Oh yeah, I just got the sweatshirt today. Let me." And her friend was over there, memorabilia, a murderabilia guy that I'm in contact with. He might come on as a guest at some point. But he was over there and he took a picture of her, and she was like, "Oh yeah, that fits pretty good," you know. She was just laughing the whole time. It was crazy. You know? Anyways, good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, so again, I'll say it again. I want the mods to all allow people to don't delete comments, even if they're dumb or anything like that. And maybe don't really don't even discourage them, really. Just let them say what they're going to say. If they start accusing family members or something like that, you can delete that, like in a case like, especially like the Delphi case, when that's all, complete crap, or they're naming people. You can delete the comment and then just say, hey, you can't say suspect's name, okay? Because I don't want those names in the chat or anything like that. But just in general, let people type in what they want to say. You can debate with them and whatnot. Yeah. Have a little bit more of a Stacy in all of you. Or a Gen H type, Or Lanky Tor, right? Like Lanky Tor is exactly like that. Yeah, no, that's what I've already explained that. Like if they cut down the channel, then you just delete the comment. And then I'll see what they said, and then I'll decide if I'm going to remove them or not. Now, those nights when the trolls are out, right? The troll comments, all caps, throwing out a bunch of... Just delete them immediately, okay? That's what you do. But like the guy that was in here yesterday, when you go back and read his comments, I forgot his first name, but he didn't really... Chris Stone or something like that. Like, he wasn't really saying anything that was that... what he was saying was something that... He didn't word it very well. Okay, that's for sure. But his comment shouldn't be deleted. He didn't word it well. It was more kind of accusatory. Let's see. Oh, yeah, I did talk to her about that today. Her daughter. And the one that was she got arrested for sex trafficking. She has an older... But here's the thing. The girl was 14 at the time and wasn't involved in any of that stuff. It was just later on. Probably because of what happened. You know how people get depressed and start doing crazy shit? And there might be some connection. The police did look into the connection between those two because, that's unusual, right? Just to see if it was something that was later. But she explained it. She's not going to bring it up. Why would you bring that up in a conversation? I asked her about it, and she didn't have any problem answering it. But I think Tiffany is her name, I believe. And she was 14 at the time that Bianca went missing. So there was no relationship to it back then. Yeah. So yeah, and then she became part of it. So, by the way, everybody, when you hear the term sex trafficking, you remember when we used to hear that and you'd think, oh man, that means like they're collecting women and transporting them around. But the term, prostitution, the industry of that, or sex, it's hard to call it. What I'm referring to is sex workers. But with the pimp and everybody, that's all sex trafficking. Okay? So sex workers are in the sex trafficking industry. If they have a pimp. I'm not sure what you call it when you're by yourself, like maybe a call girl or something. I'm not sure what that is. Yeah, so that's the same term. So all it really was in this instance was a pimp, and the daughter was a what do you call it? A sex worker, and then she recruited other girls to do the same. Be part of underneath the pimp. I'm not saying that's all she did. I don't think that's a great thing at all. It's it's shitty. She got 8 years in prison for it, but the mother actually thought that somehow. At the time when she was in that world, before she got arrested, that maybe she could help find their daughter, just in case she was picked up in that sex trafficking. What was funny this time, Mary Poppins? Yeah, let's see. Find victims can sometimes. Yep. And they should. I think they should almost be cut a break. You know, if you're a victim and then you become that, it's almost like maybe it was a defense mechanism. You're sort of under the control of the pimp, anyways. You know, I don't. It's strange. I guess you'd have to know all the details of how that went down, but. Yeah, that face mask thing doesn't work on here. But look, I got the dog cam again. That is me. I'm reaching over. It's not set up where it's directionally correct. They love that toy, by the way. They shred it. Yeah. Yeah, it seems like there's such a huge delay now on the... Way longer than it used to be. Okay, I'm gonna count it right when I say the count to 3. You guys type a 1 in, but I only need the first one. As soon as you see another 1, don't say anything. 1, 2, 3. I got a couple in 4 seconds. That's not bad. Oh, there we go. There we go. There we go. Oh, 100 of them. Ah, yeah, it's like 4 seconds. So that's not too bad. It just seems like it's a lot longer. Wow, that just went. You know, I'm trying to do, everybody. I recorded something that I'm going to try to use to when that happens. Let me show you this really quick. I'm sure that other channel will copy it though, because that's what they do. Let me see if I can find this though. I mean, I literally have a channel that copies every single thing that I do. It's incredible. It's just everything. It's just, it's actually it's very disappointing, sad. And I'm not making that up. Fortunately, they suck at it. So let me see if I can. Yeah, right here. Look. Let me open it. Might take a minute because it's... Oh, there it is over here. Yeah, this one right here. Hold on. Department. Yeah, look at it. So as soon as you guys start typing like that, I'm going to go like this. When the chat's zooming by, this is what's going to be played on the screen, okay? All right. It's going to be Lucille Ball sticking the bonbons. that thing's hilarious to me. Thanks, Scott Holland. Awesome. All right, well, the case we're going to be talking about tonight, I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm going to do one before this, but the main one we're going to be talking about, the other one's so short that I can do it, is Sophia Baird in 1943 in Ohio, yet again. Right? But it's in one of those unsolved cases. You know, it's hard to read the original articles because they're referring to a black person, but they use the now totally unacceptable term. You know, I don't even want to say it. I wasn't even going to try to spell it either. But yeah, so I'm reading those, and it's repeated so many times that I can try to, read some of those, but then I'm going to switch forward pretty quickly to the in 1984, 41 years later, somebody did a 5-part series in the newspaper that goes through the whole case. I haven't even looked at it, so I thought that would probably be the best way to do it. And that's even 1984. So think how old all of this is. I mean, that was 1984, and that was 41 years after that. But 1984 was 36 years ago from today, you know. Yeah. All right, so before that, we're going to go to the Sharon Blackburn. It's not very much detail at all in this one. This is in 1989, February 24th in Ohio, Columbus. Yep, World War II. Thanks, Michelle Nicholas. All right, so is everybody, all the moderators, you're all on the same page now? We're not going to remove anybody if they're saying stuff that's already... Look, if somebody comes in there, I might see it and go, wow, did you just start the case? But you guys need to be all helpful for them. I know that you like how, I guess you must like the way I do it, or you wouldn't be here. But I'd rather have you guys be, the ones that are more welcoming and just get rid of the trolls. Literally trolls that come in. That's about it. All right. Boom. Yeah. I almost want to do this and then open up the lines. Got to get, if Kit Kat's still awake, I just, every time you hear Kit Kat call in, you always feel good, right? You always get a little happy, even if she has nothing to say at all. She's one of those people that if she's in the room, makes it a better place, right? And plus, everybody likes a Kit Kat bar, so. I don't even know what the difference between Top Chat and the other one is. I see the same things in the same order. Doesn't change. What is a Top Chat anyways? Like, what does it mean, Top Chat? Jamie McLaughlin. Yeah, we're doing pretty well this month, by the way, everybody. I really appreciate it with the super chats, the fundraising. Trying to make this year a crazy year. Oh, really? I see everybody's when I have Top Chat on. They're all the same order, everything. It's weird. Let me see what happens if I switch it back to... Let's see. Huh? Looks about the same. I probably embarrassed Kit Kat. All right, here we go. Franklin County officials on Tuesday were investigating the death of an unidentified girl. The body of the girl, who was white and appeared to be in her mid-teens, was found by a jogger near a drainage ditch alongside Voss Road, just outside. I think that location is, let's see. Yeah, it's right here, right by the Air Force Base. And it's on this road, and it was right before you get to here. Or, let's just say somewhere right in this area. Appeared to be in her mid-teens, was found by a jogger near a drainage ditch alongside Voss Road, just outside of the Rickenbacker Air National Guard Base in southeastern Franklin County. The brown-haired, blue-eyed girl was about 5'3" and weighed 100 pounds and was dressed in jeans, white tennis shoes, a blue shirt, and a blue jean jacket with a plaid hood. And then police have identified the young woman. This is on the 3rd. I think she was found on February 28th. And then the next day, that article that I just read came out. And then 2 days after that, this one came out. There might have been the 24th, actually, that she was killed. But she was found, I think she was found on the 28th. Police have identified the young woman whose beaten body was found Tuesday. And this is, let's see if this is Friday. It would be Thursday the 2nd, Wednesday the 1st, Tuesday the 28th. Yep, there you go. Police have identified the young woman whose beaten body was found Tuesday in a ditch near Rickenbacker Air National Guard Base as Sharon Blackburn, 19, the daughter of Laura Dotson of Columbus. The victim lived with their mother and stepfather, Ray Dotson. She leaves an 18-month-old son, Joshua. Mrs. Dotson filled a missing person report with police Saturday, saying her daughter was last seen Friday at a bar with another woman and 2 men. Miss Blackburn had the initials SB tattooed on her left arm, and that mark, along with her clothing, led to her identification. Detectives were questioning friends and acquaintances, but no motive or solid suspects had developed. Well, I would first think about who's the father of the 18-month-old son, because that's just sort of a typical suspect there. I would think, well, who's the father? And because, you know, when you're looking at, she's so young, and maybe I don't know who the father is, but let's just say he's 23, 24. Well, and they're not together. So that means he's going to be saddled with 18 years of child support, and that's a motive a lot of times for somebody. I don't know who the father is or what the circumstances were, but that seems to be a common theme that shows up. Hey, thanks, Kit Kat. And Claudia Neubauer. I just turned back on the sound effects. I don't know if I hit those or not. But. Yeah. All right. So then there isn't anything else really at all other than that's her. And then here's the write-up on the OhioAttorneyGeneral.gov website. It says, on February 24th, 1989, Sharon Blackburn left home telling her family she was going out with some friends for the evening and would return home later that night. The next morning, Sharon had not returned home and her family became concerned. She was last seen at George's Friendly Tavern on Parsons Avenue. Well, I'm saying that this is George's Friendly Tavern because there was no more taverns listed on that avenue. This is one, and, you know, that looks old, and I bet you that maybe just changed names. And usually taverns stay taverns, if you know what I mean. Like, they're always a tavern, but they change the name to whoever bought. I don't know why that's not engaging into Street View. Let's see. Well, let me try something else. Oh, there we go. Just took a while. Come on, Street View. You're... Look at it. It's like trying to zoom in on something. All right. So maybe back in there. So that's maybe where she was. I'm pretty sure that's it, though. And even if it's not, it's on the same street. No one knew where Sharon was. 4 days later, on Monday, February 28, 1989, a man out for a morning walk. Oh, wait, let me finish the rest of this up here. She was last seen at George's Friendly Tavern on Parsons Avenue, and that was around 11 p.m., February 24th. No one knew where Shannon was. 4 days later, on Monday, February 28, 1989, a man out for a morning walk spotted the body of a young girl in a ditch at the end of Voss Road. So at the end of Voss Road, near Reckenbacher Air National Guard Base. It was Sharon Blackburn. She had been beaten to death. Investigators are attempting... See, being beaten to death doesn't say anything else like she was sexually assaulted. That sounds like a crime of passion, like you're just really angry at something. Investigators are attempting to locate anyone who had contact with Sharon before her death or who may have information regarding her murder. That's weird. So she was over at this tavern, and then where she was found is not really far away from there at all. Okay, so there's that. So it's just right there to there. Look at it. 5 miles. So you wonder, did she... You know, we don't even know how she left the bar or anything. You'd think one of her friends would be able to give information. It seems so, like, generic. Well, she was last seen at the bar by her friends that she was out with. Okay, well, I mean, did the friends talk to her? Or, you know, were they there when she left the building? Or how did that play out? Oh, so there you go. There's a road right here that you can look. So maybe this ditch right here, right at the end. And then it makes you wonder if the person, which would be strange, but do they live on the Air Force base? You know, you dump her body just before going into the Air Force base. But that'd be really stupid. I mean, I don't know why you would do something like that. Oh, well, thank you, Karen. I appreciate it. For the $20 in PayPal. Very nice. Thank you very much. Yeah, I usually check at the end, though. At the end of the show. But you can also use the Streamlabs link. And that goes to PayPal, and you still get the stuff goes on the screen, right? So the Streamlabs link, if you guys throw in more, would be a cool, you know, because it has the same dancing characters and you know your name's on the screen. Not that you really like the dancing characters, but hey, Stacy, how's it going? I saw you up there earlier. Is everything going good? Good to see you. Yeah, so if you're new here right now, like I say often, when you send in super chats, you become a channel member. So if you want to become a channel member, right next to the subscribe button, there's a join button, and you can become a member of the channel, and then you get access to all of the emojis and discounts on merchandise and posts in the community section that are just for channel members. And there you go. Did I not have a join link? I should probably do that. Oh, there it is. Yeah. And so what we do is we take the super chats, the ad revenue, and well, basically that's about it. And the membership, I guess. So super chat, ad revenue, and membership. And I donate a large portion. And when I say large, I don't mean like, 2% or something. It's, almost 50% of the take home, I think. Maybe about that. From YouTube. And so, as I say, last year we donated $22,000. And this year we transferred one, so there was 23,000, but I moved 1,000 and just sort of moved it into this year to have 1,000 into the DNA fund. So that's going into this year. And we have 6,000 in the DNA fund. Our buddy Jeff put 1,500 of that in there. So that makes it 6,000. And then we've donated 2,600 to actual, charities. So we're doing good things when you're helping out my channel. It helps out my channel and it helps out the charities, and we just kind of keep on trucking. It helps me sort of justify doing, 5 or 6 hours of, even more than that, and so I've actually had shows that are 5 hours long, believe it or not. Just the other night, as a matter of fact, it seemed like it was only 2 hours, but it was 5. Thank you, Kathy Mellon. Yeah, so we're trying to make a difference. I think we've made a difference. Obviously, I think whenever you can, like we gave, I think 6,000 to Texas EquiSearch last year. I think I'm sure they got some good use out of that. That was a great show. It was 5 hours, really? I was like, I need Calgon. All right, I'm gonna do the Sophia Baird case right now. So we'll start off with an image that was in the newspaper. That's where that image came from that you guys saw. It said, Miss Sophia Baird, waitress, right there, bottom left, was found brutally murdered yesterday in the hallway outside her third-floor room at the Biltmore Hotel at 24 East 8th Street. Bloodstains on the wall of the corridor opposite the door of her room may be seen in the picture. So I think that's what this is. I mean, look at that. That is just, some of this is just crappy copy, but I'm pretty sure that like those dark, that's like arterial, really horrific stuff going on there. Bloodstains on the wall of the corridor opposite the door of her room may be seen in the picture at the lower right there. At top, her roommate, Mildred Sharp, center, talks with victim's second cousin, Mrs. Phoebe Bolin, left, and Mrs. Bolin's daughter, Betty Jean Bolin. Because of the tragedy, Miss Sharp is staying at Mildred Sharp is in the center. So this girl was her roommate, and she's going to be staying with the Bolins. And of course, they give you the address where the roommate's going to be staying. I mean, you wouldn't want to be careful with that information in case the intended victim perhaps was the other roommate. Isn't it crazy how they always gave out that information, though? Ah, man, it's wild. But this is the victim, and look at that, all that. I'm not sure about this. And I think you can see some sort of copy stripes, but that hard darkness there, I'm pretty sure is what they're referring to. Yeah, so I'm going to have to try to read. I'll read a couple of these early articles just to... But it's hard because, you got the derogatory terms in there. A pretty blonde waitress was brutally stabbed and slashed to death by a black man in a downtown hotel early yesterday, leaving police with a murder case which is in certain respects was like the much publicized Berth 13 murder on a train in Oregon. Never heard of that one. I think we need to look that sucker up. Maybe we'll do that after this. All right, so somebody remember that one. Berth 13 murder, okay? That's a crazy one. The victim of the vicious knife attack was Miss Sophia Baird, 20 years old. Miss Baird was found bleeding to death in a hallway near her third-floor room in the Biltmore Hotel on 24th East 8th Street. This is, hey, thanks, Ashley. Yeah.
Hey, Grey, hey, freaks. 4-leaf clover. 4-leaf clover.
Oh, yeah.
Heart.
That's right. Happy St. Patrick's Day. You can tell I was just all over that. Yep, so the address given was right there. I'm sort of wondering if there used to be a hotel here that was taken away. I guess what we could do is go down to the street view and see if this might have been it right here. Don't really see any numbers. No, it says something like 5. What does that say? 5? 15? Oh, 15 east. Okay, so 24. Well, actually 24 would be on the other side then, wouldn't it? And that says 1952, so maybe that building got taken down and that one put there. Because usually you alternate, right? Thank you, classical guitarist. Yeah, so it might have been over here at one point. And maybe they just tore down the building after a while. But it was supposed to be 24 East 8th Street. It does have it on this side of the road. Let me just sort of see what happens if I go back to... and turn off the 3D buildings for a minute. Okay, that's 1993. It's still... well, now it's right in the middle of the road. Yeah, that's still the same since then. I thought you were like... I was just reading Mary Poppins' comment. It says, "Whoa, Lisa." And I thought, like, whoa, what happened? So I was up there looking for a Lisa to see what the whoa was about. Like she was going to say, "Oh, I lived there," or something. And then I realized, wait, that's her name. Oh boy, that's like looking for your glasses when they're on your face, right? Yeah. Okay, remember that Berth 13 murder, somebody? Everybody got that memorized? Miss Baird was found bleeding to death in a hallway near her third-floor room in the Baltimore Hotel. I think it's, Biltmore Hotel, 24 East 8th Street. Shortly after, a dapperly dressed, mustached black man was seen in the hotel. Police broadcast the following description of the black man, sought for the slang of Miss Sophie Baird, from 35 to 37, 5'10", 140 pounds, and wearing gray top coat with black checks and a dark hat. The man had a full-lip mustache. He was of medium brown color. Except for two brief screams and a throttled sound, Other occupants of the hotel said they heard nothing unusual before the young woman was found dying. The manager of the hotel, Miss Mary Bezana, and a male guest, Fred Proctor, told police that they saw the girl's slayer. Miss Bezana said she saw the black man after she went to investigate the screams, while Proctor said he confronted the suspect a short time before the screams were heard. Detectives Walter Hart and Thomas Ferger of the Homicide Squad told Detective Chief Clem Mers and Captain Hall that except for the description of the black intruder given by Miss Bezana and Proctor, they had no clues in the case. The black man whose hands and perhaps his clothing were smeared with blood. Yeah, I mean, when you do something like that, you're cutting somebody's arteries like that, you're going to have blood all over you. Escaped without leaving a trace after finding his way through the complicated rear exit of the building. Well, it's kind of interesting that he knew how to get out of a complicated rear exit. Almost like he had been there. You know, hell, maybe he worked there. Who the hell knows? Examination of the room showed that the attack began on the bed, then switched to the side of the bed towards the door. Through the doorway and into the hall where the young waitress fell bleeding to death. That the killer sat on the side of the bed and ransacked Mrs. Baird's purse before placing the knife against her throat was evidenced by the fact that contents of the purse were I bet you they're going to say there was blood on the contents. Purse were strewn across the bed. The killer apparently rifled the purse of all money except for some change. One mysterious element which detectives sought to clear up immediately was how the black man knew Miss Baird's name. They met with little success in their investigation. Proctor, who occupies a room on the top floor of the four-story hotel, the only other occupant of that floor being a maintenance man, told Sergeant Higdon Roberts and Patrolman Melville and Concrete, the first officers to arrive on the scene, that when they heard the man coming up the stairways to... Let me go to this. They had a pretty huge articles in here, so... I mean, these are... That's what I was trying to tell people, is like back then they really, you know... I think it starts somewhere down here. Where the hell is that? I have to zoom in. Say escapes. Unit. Oh, right here. There you go. The fourth floor, he asked him what he wanted. I want to see Miss Baird. So this is the suspect saying to another individual that he wanted to see Miss Baird. They want to know about getting jobs at Wright's. Proctor said he told the man to leave and that the letter went back down the stairway. It's interesting how they keep saying, you know, they keep referring to his race the entire time. It's like, yeah, we know. So now you can just keep saying his, you know, you don't have to see it. Just you can see there was bias and everything back then, every single time, right? Proctor said he told the black man to leave and that the letter went back and then later went back down the stairway. And tells owner of the hotel. That was soon after midnight. Shortly afterwards, Proctor told a squad of detectives led by Lieutenant John Oman he dressed and went downstairs to ask Mrs. Ella Bezana, owner of the hotel, whether she had sent anyone up to see Miss Baird. Miss Benazah said that she had not. So that guy didn't seem like there was a reason he was supposed to be up there. Proctor went back to his room. Then police said the elder Mrs. Bezana went to the room of her daughter-in-law, the manager on the second floor, to ask her whether she had seen or heard anyone in the hotel. Before she reached there, however, and at the same time that Proctor was leaving his room again, the screams were heard. Miss Mary Bezanaugh said that when she left her room to go up to the third floor, the source of the screams, she saw the man going down the rear stairway. Passing him, she ran to the third floor, arriving in front of Mrs. Baird's room. So she passed the guy as he's running down the stairs. That's crazy. At the same time Proctor did. The pretty waitress, clutching wisp of her own hair in her hands, was slumped on the hall floor. In the ensuing excitement, the suspect prowler escaped by using a stairway leading to the rear exit of the building. As the slayer fled, he kept the murder weapon with him. His blood-stained hands left a heavy smear of blood on a banister, and a trail of blood led to a yard in the rear of the hotel building. Yeah, you kind of wonder if he cut himself, you know. You would get some blood on you, but by the time you were out in that yard, you're not going to get any, you're not going to be still dripping all over the place. You know, it's almost like he got cut. You know, that's easy to do too. When you got that much blood, the knife starts slipping, and you cut your own hand a lot. Yeah, that is kind of a creepy looking baby. They could have done without this photograph right here. This one looks a bit like E.T. This one almost doesn't look humanoid, and this one, this is the only picture they should have put. Okay? This one right here would have worked. This one doesn't look human. That one, I don't even know what that looks like. And this one, whew, wow. All right. Anyways, so that's pretty interesting. So in the ensuing excitement, I was already past that. The operators of the hotel said they could not explain the slayer's knowledge of the complicated way to the exit. See, that's what I was saying a few minutes ago, right? It's crazy that he knew how to get out of something so complicated. They said the only black person ever known to have been in the place was their regular porter. In order to leave the building through the rear entrance, it is necessary to walk through a door marked Apartment 5 on the third floor. This door leads to a near stairway. Then, after reaching the stairway leading to the backyard, which is fenced in on one side and has a shed on the other, it is necessary to enter a door to get into the shed. Then open another which leads into the alley. Wow. Only the operators and regular employees of the hotel were thought to be aware of the intricacies of this exit. See how much more information reporters were given back then? Well, I saw Dan up there said that they were creepy babies, so I looked and I went, oh wow. I was actually focusing on the story, but then I realized, wow, they are pretty creepy looking. I mean, I don't know why they hadn't needed to put 4 pictures of the same baby up there. No, Gray, they're all different, wearing the same outfit. Oh, well, maybe that explains it. Maybe they're quadruplets. Is that what it is? Oh, well, there you go. Grace, Corey, one of the 2 twin daughters of Mr. and Mrs. But a second look in the mirror began to change. Wait, let's see what it says. Grace Corey. What an appropriate name that is, huh? One of the twin daughters of Mr. and Mrs. Charles Gorey of Arlington, VA, wasn't so certain she appreciated the first Easter bonnet of her 4-month of life, one, I'm not sure what that means, but a second look in the mirror, 2, began to change her mind. A third look, 3, convinced her. A 4th enraptured her. So that's 1, 2. Oh, and then she was, yay! Okay, so she wasn't sure she liked the bonnet, and then slightly started liking it, and then, and then looked at herself, and then was absolutely enthralled. Okay, makes more sense now. We've now debunked the baby picture. Okay. Asleep at 10:45 o'clock. One of the last persons to see Miss Baird alive was Miss Ruth Combs, who occupies another room on the third floor. Miss Combs told police that at 10:45 Saturday night, when she went to Miss Baird's room to borrow a pressing iron, she found Miss Baird asleep, lying face down. So you were able to get into her room in an apartment building, just kind of. Let's see. That's kind of odd. Another room on the third floor. That seems like it's a room in an apartment building. Miss Combs told police that at 10:45 Saturday night, when she went to Miss Baird's room to borrow a pressing iron, she found Miss Baird asleep, lying face down across her bed and fully dressed. Well, hell. That's a little bit weird, too. Miss Combs said that Miss Baird went back to sleep after lending... Oh, so she did wake her up. So she woke up Miss Baird to get the iron. So Miss Combs said that Miss Baird went back to sleep after lending her the iron, and when Miss Combs later re-entered the apartment, which was not locked, to borrow a bottle of ink, the young waitress still was sleeping. And that was... Miss Combs said that Miss Baird went back to sleep after lending her the iron. And when Miss Combs... God, what a bothersome neighbor. Jesus. You're trying to take a nap, and she goes over and gets an iron. Oh, and then she goes over to get something else. It was more than an hour after Miss Combs' second visit, when she did not bother to awaken Miss Baird, that the screams were heard. So she didn't wake her on the second trip. So she went there to borrow a bottle of ink. Hey, say borrow a bottle five times quick. All right? Thanks. Police said it was possible that after the suspect was ordered from the building by Proctor, he quietly entered Miss Baird's room instead of leaving. Oh, okay. When he was told to leave. In fixing a motive for the crime, police reasoned that the suspect, who possibly chanced to hear Miss Baird's name and learned her address, went to her apartment to attack her. Detectives said it was possible that the suspect sat on the young woman's bed as she lay in a sound sleep, waiting for her to awaken and not wishing to arouse her suddenly and cause her to cry out. But then why would he have known her name? He definitely was there for some other reason than to steal anything. If such was the case, police said it was evident that the slayer's plan, now they finally referred to him as something else, did not work. For it was apparent that when Miss Baird awakened, she tried to fight the intruder. The bloody conditions of the room and the position in which her body was found indicated a terrific struggle resulted. Coroner Frank M. Kopic, Jr. said that Miss Baird had not been attacked, nor had her clothing been disarranged except in the fatal struggle. Dr. Kopic, I wonder if her being dressed is what made it so she wasn't assaulted. And because she was fully dressed, probably a waitress, came home just kind of tired, laid down. Dr. Kopic told Hart and Farragher that the first thrust of the weapon penetrated deeply into the left side of the victim's throat. See, none of this would ever make the paper today. Severing an artery. See, that's what I was saying. That looked like arterial spray in that hallway. There were also a deep wound at the base of the skull a puncture of the right cheek. Man, this person just went nuts. And a cut under the chin. Another wound, a deep cut through the web of the right thumb and across the palm of the hand, indicated that the pretty blonde tried to disarm the murderer. Miss Baird's roommate, Miss Mildred Sharp, the one that we saw in that picture earlier, who was employed at the Purple Cow restaurant with her, said that she and the murder victim came to Cincinnati 10 months ago from Elk Valley, Tennessee, a small town near Jellicoe. She said that her roommate, who worked an afternoon and night shift at the Vine Street restaurant, was to have worked Saturday night, but because she had worked an extra shift Saturday, see, she was really tired, Saturday afternoon, apparently had gone to her room and fallen asleep. See? Ms. Sharp, see how you just look at something and you can deduce something that's logical? You know, like she's a waitress, fully dressed, sleeping on her bed. She's probably just exhausted from... Ms. Sharp said that before becoming a waitress at the Purple Cow, Miss Baird was employed in the coffee shop of the hotel. That's interesting. Hotel Netherland Plaza. She was unable to give police the name or description of any black person who might have leered at or otherwise made improper advances to Miss Baird. Miss Sharp discounted a remark which Miss Baird made to a friend, Jack Helton, of 736 Ridgeway Avenue. Helton, a roommate of Henderson Bowling, a friend of Miss Sharp's, who was employed at Wright's, told Detective Hart that on several occasions Miss Baird mentioned that she was afraid, she was afraid of my life when I stay alone at home. Interesting. Miss Sharp said she attributed this remark to the fact that a man who no longer lives at the hotel had been acting peculiarly. Miss Sharp said that Miss Baird never repeated the remark after the man left the hotel. A statement by Miss Sharp substantiated the robbery theory. She said that Miss Baird always had some money, because you get tips, right, including currency in her purse, and usually had several dollars in change from tips. Police said her purse contained only 37 cents. Miss Baird was a daughter of Aaron and Phoebe Baird of Elk Valley. She has 3 brothers in the Navy. So this is the Oregon I was mentioning. Detectives said that Miss Baird's murder was similar to Berth 13 murder in Oregon, in that in each instance the victim's throat was cut as she struggled with a black man, and that in each case there were substantial clues immediately available. In the Oregon slang, Miss Martha Virginia James, 21, bride of a Navy... But why are they... It's so far away, you know, it's like... In the Oregon slang, Miss Martha Virginia James, 21, bride of a Navy ensign, was slashed to death in her berth aboard a Southern Pacific train last January 23rd as the train sped through the Willamette Valley. It's not Willamette, everybody. It's not Willamette. It's Willamette. Thank you, Joshua Long. Not too late, not too late. Never too late for you, Joshua Long. You just have to sing us a song, okay? One of these times you have to come on live and sing a song. You know what I'm talking about?
Howdy gang, hope him not too late. Love you freaks.
We're going to do a Zoom and you're going to come in and you're going to... maybe we'll have a night like a talent show night, right? Wouldn't that be kind of fun? I just thought of that just now. Where people call in and perform their talents. I think that'd be kind of fun. Yeah, why the hell not, right? Well, you don't have to do it, Amber, but you could watch it, right? You know, just something that's not true crime I mean, I do true crime, basically 30 days a month. One night every few months or something isn't going to kill anybody. Come on. I think we're gonna all say Amber, 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 Amber. And then you're going to have to call in and sing that song that you know you're good at. You sing it awesome in the bathroom, but we're too scared to sing it out loud, right? Come on. Yeah. Mount Helena video? I don't know what that means. What's a Mount Helena video? Claudia Neubauer. Thank you. Yeah, that's right. See, in the car, in the bathroom. Just drive down get in your car, turn it on, and then have your Zoom on your cell phone. It'll work. Yeah. Oh, good. I used to do karaoke, but yeah, it's Mount St. Helens. It's Mount St. Helens. But what was I going to do about Mount St. Helens? I don't remember saying I was going to do anything with Mount St. Helens.
Good evening, freaks.
Yeah, it's Mount St. Helens. But what was I going to do with Mount St. Helens? I don't remember. Oh. I mean, I didn't have any... Well, my experiences are that we lived there, and when it erupted, all these flakes came out of the sky for days and days, burying the entire area in ash. It was the I think it was called like a Nuée Ardente eruption, where it's just this really explosive... they didn't really actually film it, but luckily a photographer was there, and he took enough stills where they could make sort of an animation. But, man, it took years and years for all that ash to get the hell out of here. It sucked. Oh. Yeah, well, I was talking about doing a talent show. Anyways. All right. In the Oregon slang, let me go down there. A dining car cook, Robert E. Lee Folks, 20, was found guilty of the murder without recommendation of mercy by a jury at Albany, Oregon. That's not far away. It's like about 60 miles from here. Last Thursday, Folks is to be sentenced today, probably to death in the Oregon gas chamber. So why even compare that? See, the only reason they're comparing it then is because the killer was black. That's just a dumb reason. It's not the same guy, so why talk about it? Yeah, stupid. So this was, I think this was also in that last article, but Sophia Baird, 20-year-old pretty blonde waitress, quarreled with her slayer for at least 10 minutes. See, listen to this. This is new. They quarreled for 10 minutes before he slashed her to death. I wonder what that was about. It seems like there was more like something else, like almost like a relationship or something that went wrong. And, taboo back then, right? Miss Lucille Thomas, who occupied a room adjoining Miss Baird, said that there were voices in Sophia's room when she arrived early Easter Sunday. So that must have been very early in the morning. So way after that roommate went over to borrow items. I could hear a man with a gruff voice, Miss Thomas said. They argued about 10 minutes. Then she screamed. I heard a thud. Then I ran outside and saw her lying in a corner of the hall. Yeah, and then it's just all about like clues are lacking. Oh yeah, and then maybe this will be interesting. This one is continue to seek a clue showing that Miss Sophia Baird, 20 years old waitress, who was slain in her room at the Biltmore Hotel, 24 East 8th Street last Sunday, was acquainted with her slayer. Let's see. They interviewed her roommate. They think that maybe she was acquainted. Miss Mildred Sharp, again yesterday. Miss Sharp, who returned yesterday from the funeral of her pretty blonde roommate. It's so weird how they put that stuff in there all the time. Pretty blonde roommate. I mean, if she was ugly, would you have put ugly blonde roommate in there? I mean, who cares what she looked like? You just say her roommate. At Elk Valley, Tennessee told Lieutenant John Oman and Detective Walter Hart and the Thomas Farragher that she knew of no black person who knew where Miss Baird lived. Well, did they actually ask you that, or did they ask you was she friends with any? Members of a black band from a cafe which was frequented by Miss Baird volunteered to have their fingerprints taken so police would have the assurance that they were not logical suspects. Those men said they knew Miss Baird from her visits to the cafe. Witnesses said the man who stabbed the young waitress... See, that's what I'm saying, like right here. Why do they put that word there when they could just put man, right? Witness said the man who stabbed the young waitress asked for her by name when he was found at the hotel a short time before the slaying. So that's pretty interesting. You know, and they arrested the various people. I'm just going to kind of... Okay, here we go. There's another... something about a hat. A hat found in the alley behind the hotel Biltmore, 24 East 8th Street, after the murder, April 25th, of Miss Sophia Baird, 25, waitress, has been identified. Well, they didn't say pretty waitress? Wow. West Virginia hat store proprietor as having been sold in his store. Detective Walter Hart and Thomas Farragher reported to Detective Chief Clem Merce last night on their return. How do you know for sure, though, that the hat is from the suspect? Last Tuesday, Hart and Farragher arrested a 26-year-old man, part Indian, living at 23 East 8th Street, so right next door, who is from Charleston. He admitted knowing Miss Baird and her roommate, Mildred Sharp, from having met them in a Walnut Street cafe. He was an instructor at the Wright Aeronautical Corporation plant in Laughlin. One of the residents at the hotel, Fred Proctor, said the slayer was a black man claiming to have met him in a hall of the hotel the night of the murder. Proctor said the man asked for Miss Baird, explaining that he wanted to talk to them about a job at Wright's. The detectives told Chief Mertz that the Charleston hat store owner and one of the clerks identified a picture of the suspect as one of their customers, but that neither of them could remember selling the hat found in the alley to the suspect. The hat fits the suspect. How do they know? How do you know it fits the suspect? I mean, like it looked like the one? No, I don't think I was blinking enough. Hold on. In Charleston, the detective also interviewed two women, both of whom identified the picture of the suspect. One of them said that last Halloween night he had tried to break into her room. He fled when she summoned police. Halloween would have been about 6 months before. He fled when she summoned the police, but was arrested the next day. Let's see. In Charleston, the detectives also interviewed two women, both of whom identified the picture. What do you mean the picture? You don't have a picture of the suspect. One of them said that last Halloween night he had tried to break into her room. Yeah. He fled when she summoned police but was arrested the next day. Tried later for disorderly conduct and drunkenness. He was fined and ordered to leave Charleston. The woman said also that the suspect, who had thrust his attention upon her, threatened to cut off her head or cut her heart out if she went with anyone else. The other woman told the detectives that the suspect had threatened her with a knife several times, saying he would cut your throat. A Charleston cafe operator told detectives that the suspect had threatened him with a knife several times. According to the detectives, the suspect is, now they're calling him suspect, right, in whose room a switchblade knife was found after his arrest, has a reputation of becoming abusive when drunk, but that when he sobers up, he cannot remember what he's done. I think most of the time that's just an excuse. Almost everybody remembers what they do. All right. So I'm just going to move all the way down to the... It was crazy. 1984, somebody did this entire... hopefully I can get through this. They did this entire 5-part series on the case in 1984, which was 41 years after it. I think this part repeats every time, so we'll read it once. Sophia Baird, a pretty 20-year-old waitress, was murdered in Cincinnati on Easter Sunday 41 years ago. The murder was never solved. For a time, the case claimed the avid attention of the press, but when police were unable to solve the puzzle for her final days, Sophia Baird was all but forgotten until 1979. Spurred by the mysterious reappearance of Sophia Baird's corpse in Tennessee cemetery, Adrian Baird set out to answer the question that had plagued his family for 36 years. The story of Sophia's life and death and her brother's search for the truth have been reconstructed from contemporary newspaper accounts, documents, letters, and the memories of those still living. The memories of one particularly important source had been committed to tape shortly before her death. Enquirer reporter Todd Schroeder has drawn on details. So this is by Tom Schroeder here. This sounds like it's going to be pretty interesting, right? Tom Schroeder has drawn on detail provided by these sources to describe the scenes. So you guys, did that, sound interesting to you guys? I think it'll be pretty interesting. And there's nothing to throw me in jail tonight, so I'm just relying on all of you guys to pretend that I... Yeah, this is going to be crazy. So this guy went back and got all the documents, tapes, everything like that. I think my wife's talking to one of the dogs. All right. So here's chapter 1 here. 200 miles southeast of Cincinnati, in a level clearing carved from an old pine grove, the gravediggers began to sweat. The sun was hot for May, and the joking subsided as they bent to their work, filling the silence with the ringing church of shovels breaking limestone and the thud of heavy soil. The hole bored into the secret darkness, then, with a sharp crack, ripped the afternoon to splinters. Thank you, Jessica Schubach. All right. See, that was basically the cab ride home in Bale, right? The hole bored into the secret darkness, then, with a sharp crack, Rip the afternoon to splinters. Hey, maybe we'll put some different music on. Let's see. Let's see what happens if put some. Thank you, Jessica Schubach. Let me just see what this other, the ominous music sounds like. Maybe not that one. How about this one? Dark Times. I do like Dark Times. Let's see if that one works. That's like a podcast audio. The hole bored into the secret darkness, then with a sharp crack, ripped the afternoon to splinters. Here, I'll turn the music up a little bit. Right there. The unfortunate man wielding the shovel dropped it as if it had come alive in his hands. Instead of further darkness, he found himself staring into a shattered casket at the perfectly preserved face of a young woman, dead for 29 years. Her skin was white, touched with deep tones of gray like marble. Later, when one of the curious cautiously touched the corpse, it was found to be hard, petrified by the leaching limestone. But the most astonishing thing was the blonde hair, bright and coiffed as it had been on the undertaker's table. Yeah, there we go. We'll use this as a background. Alright, the gravediggers, an experienced crew of roustabouts, threw down their tools and scrambled out of the hole across the grass to a battered pickup truck. They left in a hurry, their wheels spewing blue gravel toward the exposed remains of Sophia Baird. All day, the curious and concerned, and eventually some of Sophia's relatives, came to see for themselves whether the fantastic story was true. Local lore has it that someone invaded the grave that day, hacked large portions of golden hair from the corpse, then encased the locks in glass for the angelic power they contain. Sophia Baird had barely more than a child. Had been barely more than a child, a lovely girl of 20 years, when her throat was slit. She died thrashing in her own blood. Hey, whoa! Leah Fernandez.
Oh, I'll be Chewbacca.
Thank you.
If you want me to.
Sophia had been barely more than a child, a lovely girl of 20 years, when her throat was slit. She died thrashing in her own blood in the dingy hall of a Cincinnati transient hotel. She was murdered shortly after midnight, Easter Sunday, 1943. The crime was never solved, and the wounds that scarred her hometown of Elk Valley in the eastern Tennessee Hill country were not forgotten. 29 years later, when her face emerged from what was supposed to be an empty plot, many of the neighbors and kin who peered into the pit of her petrified features read an unmistakable sign. The spirit of Sophia Baird was not at peace. The following day, by the time the funeral home had sent a new crew to deal with the situation, the corpse had disappeared. Wow, that was 1972 at the cemetery. Alright, let me get back over to here. I mean, there's just, look how much stuff is in these. I mean, I'm not even sure. Thanks, Barbara Smith. Oh yeah, well yeah, I think they've always.
YouTube is now
chat.
censoring super chat.
You can't put a cuss word in them. Let's see. First, the boy heard the whine of the engine. That makes sense? Or did I miss something on that first one? Hold on. The following day, by the time the funeral home had sent a few new crew to deal with the situation, the corpse had disappeared. Huh. That doesn't seem like that matches there. Maybe that was the end of it. Now they're on to a new section.
Thank you for all you do.
Well, thanks, Gene Fish. First, the boy heard the whine of the engine climbing the... So this is Elk Valley, 1943. First, the boy heard the whine of the engine climbing the steep grade of the mountain road. Then the crunch of tires on gravel. The car flashed out from a space in the trees, then emerged in the sunlight, gleaming and new. Cars in that part of Tennessee were rare even before wartime shortages. A car still new enough to shine like this one could only be bringing something extraordinary into his life. The boy, who was only 11, jumped up from where he had been playing and didn't know which way to run. Torn between fascination and fear, Adrian Baird stood right where he was in a ditch beside the roadbed and watched the car grow larger until it loomed above him, blotting out the sun and rumbling like thunder. I wonder if that's the brother right there. A man's face looked down at him from the open window. "Where are your parents, son?" the face asked. Oh, okay, this is when they were informed, I think. Instead of answering, Adrian ran up the road towards the ranchac house his father had built himself. His mother, who had heard the car too, stood in the doorway. Adrian slipped into the safety of the dim light between her and watched the car pull up outside. The man walked to the porch. His walk was stiff and deliberate, as if he were carrying something heavy through. All he carried in his hands this Easter Sunday was his good hat. "Ma'am," the man said, "may I speak with Aaron Baird?" He's not, let's see, he's not to home just now. I'm not sure if that's a misquote there. "He's not home just now," Adrian's mother said. Adrian saw her watching the man uncertainly, still holding the open door to her hip like a shield. "I'm Mrs. Baird. Aaron's my husband." The man twisted his hat a little in his hands. "Miss Baird, I'm afraid your daughter Sophia is dead." Phoebe Baird pressed tighter against the door. "Well, there must be some mistake," she said. "No," the man said. "I don't think so." There was a terrible silence, and Adrian felt himself emptying into it. Finally, his mother said, "What should I do?" They brought her home from Cincinnati that Wednesday. She had been washed and put back together with care. Adrian Baird sat on a trunk in the living room and stared at his sister's marbled face. The pretty blonde hairstyle, just as she would have if for Easter services, was lightly fluffed against the pink lining of the casket. Someone had placed a single pink rose on the blue satin coverlet pulled to her breast. What could this lovely statue have to do with the Sophia? Everyone said it. Sophie. What could this lovely statue have to do with Sophia? Everyone said it. Sophie, the boy remembered. It was really by her motion, her vivacious energy, that he recalled her. The Tex Ritter song she sang as she washed the family dishes at the sink, her laughter when she walked down the road at dusk with her friends, the warmth as she sat close at the table, helping him with his lessons. It made no sense, the stillness that lay in the living room, all the grown-ups whispering and shuffling about like they were in the presence of some great mystery. Sophia lay in the room like that for 4 days. Then, well, that's just crazy, isn't it? Think about that. Like, they brought her home, and, she was already sort of prepped by the mortician, and she sat in their house for, man. Sophia lay in the room like that for 4 days. Then on Sunday, they took her to the church. The Cincinnati Post account of the brutal murder had run in the Knoxville Journal and the Lafayette Press. But the real impact came over the air. Cincinnati radio station WCKY, which could be picked up clearly throughout Eastern Tennessee, was turning the funeral into a media event with breathless, almost hysterical coverage. Violent murder was shocking news in 1943, especially the murder of a young, pretty blonde who just 2 years earlier, though only 5'4" tall, had been the star of the best Elk Valley's girls basketball team in memory. She was the best player on that team in memory. By the time the Baird family arrived at the Mountain Assembly Church of God, the crowd had spilled out the rear doors and filled the churchyard to several hundred yards away. Phoebe Baird was an extremely private woman, having poured her strength into raising 11 children with virtually no money. She had little left for sharing her feelings with the world. Now the world had flooded in on her innermost grief, and Adrian could see his mother was mortified. In all the confusion, the boy could barely follow the words flowing from the pulpit. But the last words before they closed the casket and carried Sophia up the hill to the deep squared hole that awaited her seemed to echo with truth. Like the fragrance of a spring rose, her memory will permeate our lives on and on and on. There you go. That's that part right there. Now we can keep moving down. There's a lot of... It'd be interesting to do like some genealogy stuff to figure out where they all lived. I'm sure there might be some maps in here. I don't know. His parents were never the same after that. For a time, Adrian would wake up and hear their hushed voices talking late into the night. Though he could not hear clearly, he knew they were talking about Sophia. Every now and then, someone would ask, "Did you ever find out who did it?" In the silence that followed, Adrian could almost hear her parents moving apart. They blamed themselves and each other for letting Sophia go off to Cincinnati when she was only 19, though in truth there was little either of them could have done to stop her. After 3 or 4 years, the questions and the conversation stopped. No one spoke of the murder again. Aaron and Phoebe Baird lived in separate portions of the house in Elk Valley. Eventually, they separated, and the family split up. Adrian went to live with an older brother in Washington State and turned out to be a particularly bright student. He went to college and eventually became a consultant in political science and history with the Georgia State Department of Education. In 1976, he went to Washington to work for Jimmy Carter's new federal Department of Education. So that's what her brother ended up doing. In 1964, when he still lived in Georgia, his mother came to visit him for the first time in years. Adrian hugged her, hello, then sat down for dinner. Phoebe Baird shook out her napkin and put it on her lap, commented on what a feast had been set upon the table, then gasped, clasped her chest, and fell to the floor. Wow, that's crazy. So Phoebe Baird shook out her napkin. So just picture this right here. This is crazy. So in 1964, when he still lived in Georgia, his mother came to visit him for the first time in years. Adrian hugged her hello, Then they sat down for dinner. So she said hello, and then she sat down, and then she shook out the napkin like you do, and then you put it on your lap. And she commented on what a feast had been set upon the table. Then she grasped her chest and died. I mean, she just died right then. That's just crazy. She was buried in La Follette, Tennessee, in Woodlawn Cemetery. The family paid another $300 to have the funeral home remove Sophia's remains from the Elk Fork Cemetery to a new site near her mother's grave in La Follette. The funeral home later confirmed that the move had been accomplished, and Sophia's headstone did indeed stand beside her mother's. I'm kind of having this shitty feeling that somehow her body never actually made it to the other place. That's kind of what my brain's, let's see. The matter of the empty plot in Elk Valley lay dormant until 1972, when Adrian's father died. He and his wife had grown so far apart in life, it would have been unthinkable to place them together in death. According to Aaron, Baird's wishes, he was to be buried in Elk Fork Cemetery in the same grave from which his daughter had been moved in 1964. Wow, that's weird. Wishes to... was that... let me just make sure. Yeah. Weird. So they moved Sophia, and then they were going to put him and the father in that one? According to Aaron, Baird's wishes, he was to be buried in Elk Fork Cemetery in the same grave from which his daughter had been moved in 1964. Not until 7 years later, at a family reunion in Cabell County, Tennessee, did Adrian hear the story of how the gravedigger had discovered Sophia's preserved corpse. It was the first time in 36 years that the Bairds had openly discussed Sophia's murder. The tale of the brief appearance of his sister's body gnawed at him. Of course, he assumed the funeral home had simply lied about moving the body and then stole it in the middle of the night on the day of its discovery to avoid liability. But what did any of them really know? Adrian's older sister, Edna, brought out an old trunk packed with sweepstakes. In it was an unsigned contract from True Detective for $20,000 in exchange for the exclusive story of Sophia's murder. Man, that's a ton of money back then. Edna could never bring herself to sign it. If she had, Adrian discovered, she wouldn't have had much of a story to tell. To put it mildly, Adrian said none of them could describe to me what had happened. It was then, at the Campbell County reunion, that he promised himself he would find out. So this is about the brother. He wanted to find out what actually happened. So now they're going back to 1942 again. Sophia Baird boarded a bus, this is 1942, boarded a bus at the Jellicoe Greyhound Depot on Independence Day, 1942. July 4th, 1942. It was hot. Mildred Sharp, her best friend, had already climbed the steps into the dark interior where Sophia imagined it would be cooler. She wanted to follow, but the young beau who had seen her to the station pressed close. One last obstacle. Don't go, he kept telling her. Sophia could no longer seem to breathe the small town mountain air. She was suffocating in its thinness, its tedium. She had just turned 19. She finally believed it when boys told her she was pretty, and she wanted to go to where the world could discover her. The boy, sweat dripping from the curl of hair plastered against the temple, would soon be going to the war. His pleading suddenly annoyed her. A hot cloud, smelling of oil and exhaust, rose from beneath the bus. "All right," she said, climbing sideways up the steps. The manifest above the windshield read, Cincinnati. So there you go. That was part one. 1984. This was written 37 years ago in the paper. Should I do part two? I don't think I'm going to get through all the parts. I don't know, Gene. I think it reads pretty well. You always have such... sometimes you just type stuff in that's not really appreciated. You know what I mean? Like, when you type crap like you type in a lot of times, it makes me just go, yeah, screw it then. Forget it. I think it sounds like it's written well, not like some cheap novella. But you type in stuff like that a lot where it's just kind of derogatory for some unknown reason that nobody can quite figure out. Let's see. Do you guys want to do chapter 2? There's 5 of them. I'll probably just do 2. I don't really think it's that funny, actually. I think it's lame. Happens a lot. It's like some kind of weird comment out of nowhere. Yeah, so this part here is the same as the first one. Right there. Alright, so we'll just start right here, and chapter 2, Life in the Big City. Alright, Sophia Baird and Mildred Sharp found lodging on 9th Street in downtown Cincinnati, a block quickly filling with other immigrants from the Southern Hill Country. Mildred was Sophia's best friend, and the only reason the Bairds had given their grudging consent to the move. So because she was going to be going with that friend, it was cool at that point. The last thing her mother said to her was, "Always stay with Mildred and don't ever go out at night alone." Mildred, an 18-year-old younger than Sophia, knew people in Cincinnati who had told her that waitresses were needed in the bustling restaurants downtown. It was true. Both girls found work almost immediately. Mildred at the Mills Cafeteria and Sophia at the Netherland Plaza coffee shop. Later, with the sponsorship of some of Sophia's distant kin from Elk Valley, they moved to the Purple Cow, a home cooking place near the center of town. Finding jobs so quickly buoyed their confidence. It even made them dare to hope they might soon land high-paying defense work at the Wright Aircraft. Oh, look at that! It's Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. I think it was called Wright Field at the time, but finding jobs so quickly buoyed their confidence. It even made them dare to hope they might soon land high-paying defense work at the Wright Aircraft Assembly Plant. The girls weren't quite so happy with their living arrangements. Like most of its kind, the rooming house was a rundown tenement crawling with bugs, big aggressive ones that made it impossible to sleep. The landlord claimed he sprayed daily, but each night the bugs arose from the dead with a vengeance. I mean, this isn't a like a news article, Gene. It's literally somebody wrote a story. I think they wrote it pretty well. I don't think it denigrating it though doesn't add any pleasure in reading it. When Sophia described the battle, let's see. Once Sophia and Mildred sat up in the middle of the room, barefoot, smashing at the dark, scurry shapes with their shoes until dawn. So this must be something Mildred said. When Sophia described the battle to co-workers the next day with the bugs, someone suggested a hotel on 8th Street. He told her it was clean and bugless, a hotel for women. Rooms were let for $25 a month. It sounded like just the place. The Biltmore Hotel was a 4-floor walk-up built on top of what is now the reading garden of the Cincinnati Public Library. It was owned and operated by the Bezina family, as was the Drake Hotel just a block away on 9th Street. It was true that Biltmore was kept clean, especially the lobby. The exterior, facing on 8th Street, was grand with cornices at the roofline, a wrought iron gate, and brass rails leading to the front door. Well, it doesn't seem like it's still there anymore. But it wasn't a hotel exclusively for women. They may have been confused because many of the strippers from the Gaiety Burlesque across the alley room there are sometimes just took rooms for the night. Cincinnati of 1943 was a wild, freewheeling place thick with bookies, pimps, prostitutes, and hoods. The 2 blocks from the Vine to the Walnut on 8th and 9th were the seamy heart of it. The Baltimore and the Drake had been clearly stamped by the will of a portly gray-haired 62-year-old woman named Ella Bezina. Her late husband, 4 of his brothers, and even 1 niece had all been prize fighters who boxed the circuit in the clubs of the Midwest and East. Everyone called Ella Ma, and though she spent most of her days sitting placidly in the lobby of the Baltimore and was said to possess a good deal of charm, she was also known as a shrewd street-smart operator. She had started out in the Drake Hotel, a place with quite a reputation in the precinct office and around town. Maury Zayden, who operated the Gaiety Burlesque next door to the Drake, remembers the hotel well. The guys on the Vice detail would come into the theater and say, "Hey, Maury, we're going to go up your fire escape." They were the cops. They could do what they wanted, Zayden said. The theater fire escape looked right in the windows of the Drake. One of the men who spent many interesting hours squatting on Zayden's fire escape was Detective Robert Meldon, who could see anything in those windows, and I mean anything, Meldon said. He used to watch the girls take some guy up there. We'd see them go in one of the rooms, and when the time was right, Meldon made his arrest, and Ma seethed directly her anger at Zeldin, the owner of the fire escape. I'm not even sure what that meant. Unlike the Drake, the Baltimore, Ma's second hotel was not habitually used for prostitution. Still, Meldon was well acquainted with the joint. So right now they're talking about the owner of the hotel, basically. Unlike the Drake, the Biltmore, Ma's second hotel, was not habitually used for prostitution. Still, Meldon was well acquainted with the joint, it being a gathering place for the street characters who often knew what Meldon needed to find out. Informants. They had an after-hour bar downstairs in the back by the alley with a small buc-ee operation, and Ma used to run untaxed liquor through there. About 3 a.m., off-duty cabbies could come in and play cards, and a guy would make book, Meldon said. If a police officer came in while the book was up, they'd take the tally sheets off the wall out of respect, then set him up with a few drinks, a few free drinks, I see. Like, you know, yeah, we're doing it, but yeah, there's a couple drinks, just look the other way, huh? Ma Bezina was said to be well connected with some of the officers and city political figures. Beat cops knew they could take their girlfriends up to empty rooms in the Baltimore for free. Politicians knew that the Bezinas could often deliver favors and keep quiet about it. It's kind of about the same today, isn't it? You know, the Clintons. One of the city's more prominent judges, a widower, fell in love with a beautiful stripper who lived at the Biltmore. When it became known that the judge planned to marry the girl, his political party had her hastily invited out of town. But until then, the judge was a frequent guest of the Biltmore. He would stop down to exchange pleasantries with Ma Bezina, then leave from the lobby with his young lady in his arm, assured the secret was safe. So she was almost like the person who runs a brothel, in a way. I mean, it seemed, a little bit like half and half, right? Like a pretty shady little environment. The Biltmore could be just accommodating to some of the city's toughest hoods. Zaydens remembered that once a notorious pimp took one of the Gaiety dancers off the line and kept her in a room at the Baltimore for 3 days. They kept her drunk. They did everything to her, and the worst part was she had a beautiful little girl with no one to watch her. Oh, jeez. Zayden was engaged. Let's see. Wait, now I'm trying to... Who was Zayden's again? Zayden, the owner of the fire. Wasn't he a... Maury's a... Okay. She'd started out in the Drake Hotel, a place with quite a reputation in the precinct office and around town. Maury Zayden, who operated the Gaiety Burlesque. Okay, alright. So, Zaydens was enraged. He got word to the hoods responsible that they were persona non grata at the Gaiety. The hoods retaliated by sending a thug over to the theater to shake Zaydens down for protection money. Zaydens refused in no uncertain terms, and the hood threatened to kill him. I called up my friend, the chief of police, and told him these punks were giving me trouble. Zaydens laughed. They sent Bobby Meldon and his partner down in the squad car. They caught the punk in the alley and had a nice long talk with him. Yeah, that's how it used to be, right? Hell, Meldon said, we beat that jerk for practice. That was the kind of neighborhood it was. Sophia and Mildred had set down right in the middle of it. Yeah, so it sounds like a really sketchy, crappy part of town. Good night, Karen. I know, I put people to sleep with this, but it's okay. Sometimes... Yeah. All right. So here we go. In early April 1943, Sophia and Mildred took a weekend trip into eastern Kentucky hills to visit the Bowling family. Butch Bowling was Mildred's fiancé. They had met in Cincinnati night spot called Kraus Cafe. Oh, so she became engaged. Her buddy became engaged. Fiance. They met in the Cincinnati night spot called Kraus's Cafe, an unpretentious bar most notable for the all-black boogie-woogie band that played there. Kraus's was one of the working-class night spots adopted by the growing number of Appalachians living in downtown Cincinnati. Sophia, who had always loved gospel singing and country music, became committed convert to boogie-woogie. She and Mildred would sit at a table drinking Coke or occasionally 2% beer and tap their feet to the band. This is the only kind of music, Sophia would say, it really drives me wild. Like others in Kraus's, Sophia would sometimes make requests of Curly Shearer, a horn player, and tip the band a quarter. Sophia's favorites were Pins and Needles and Go Down Slow. Sometimes Sophia and Mildred would dance together, They'd slip their drinks and puff at cools. Sophia thought it made her look cute until the bar closed at 1 a.m. It was almost like being back home, the way the place was filled with people who talked like them, came from the same background, and in some cases even knew the same people in Elk Valley. Mildred met Butch there, and by the time of the trip to Kentucky in April, they were engaged, and Sophia had begun to date Butch's roommate, Jack Helton. So Sophia's dating the roommate of Mildred's fiance. All right, so Butch, Jack, Mildred, and Sophia all drove down to Flemingburg, Kentucky. The mountains had quickened with spring and reminded the girls that it had been nearly a year since they first left for Cincinnati. In Flemingsburg, after the morning service at the country church, the congregation assembled in a nearby cedar grove with picnic baskets and limber fingers ready to pick out gospel tunes on guitar, mandolin, and banjo. That night, the singing continued at the bowling place, that's his last name. It's not a bowling alley. Sophia would name a song she knew, and they would pick it out. They could play it on their banjos. She was having a wonderful time, she told Mildred. I love it here. I could stay forever. The singing went on late into the evening. There was one song she kept asking for. It was Death, O Death. On the way back to Cincinnati, Sophia hardly said a word. They stopped at a gas station about an hour outside of Cincinnati. Butch and Jack got out of the car. Sophia grabbed Mildred's arm and leaned close. She said, I don't want to go back to the hotel, she said. Her intensity almost seemed like a joke at first. Why, Sophia? I'm afraid, she said. Mildred wanted to say, Stop scaring me, Sophia. She had never heard her talk like that before. Sophia had always been the kind to make a joke rather than talk about her problems. Butch and Jack were walking back towards the car. Mildred touched Sophia's shoulder. Tell me, she said, what are you afraid of? I don't know, Sophia said. I'm just afraid. I don't know. She knew. She had something. Mildred wanted... Okay, I'm just afraid. Okay. The last hour in the car, no one spoke. When they got back into town, Jack, who seemed to resent Sophia's sullen mood, went home. Butch went up with the girls. to the room. They talked idly for a while, then Sophia excused herself and went downstairs. She didn't seem to be gone long, but when she came back, her face was pale. Jesus. I feel sick, she said. She went straight to the bathroom, then came out and lay on the bed. A shiver convulsed her body, and she began to shake, then cry. Mildred was scared. What's wrong, Sophia? Are you really sick? I don't feel good, she said. Her voice was shaking. Her whole body was jerking like she was freezing to death. Her forehead was cool, but Sophia wanted them to pile blankets on top of her. Butch kept saying, Tell us what's wrong, Sophia. Did someone bother you? Butch had a hunting knife. He made Sophia take it in case anyone ever tried to bother her. Sophia moaned. A sob forced through her. Something's going to happen, she said. I'm afraid. I'm not going to live very long. Wow, this is crazy. If that's something that really, Apparently this is probably what Mildred said, and that's how it made it here. You just got a bad cold, honey, Mildred said, stroking her hair. Or the flu, Butch said. Butch stayed until Sophia quieted down and fell asleep. The next morning, she said she felt fine. Well, that was part 1 and 2. Well, I'll do part 3. All right. I'm going to do part 3. Ah, shit. I know. God damn it. Harlequin romance and all, I'm going to do it again. Right, Gene? Okay. Yeah, part 3 looks like it might be pretty interesting. Now, I was kind of amazed that somebody 40 years later did a whole, retelling of the actual all of this, I guess, is based on the documents. All right. So this one's called A Trail of Blood. On Saturday, April 24th, Sophia worked... Let me check something out, though. When was this exactly? Because this was in April, that trip that they took. So that wasn't long before this. That trip that they made to, was it Kentucky? (1943). 1943, somebody wrote this 41 years later in 1984. And it's in newspapers.com. And that was 37 years ago itself. So this is like, 78 years ago or something. I mean, it's just a long time ago. On Saturday, April 24th, Sophia worked the breakfast shift at the Purple Cove. She and Mildred had stayed up late the night before. They'd taken a big load of clothes down to the Chem King and eaten at the chili parlor next door. Then Sophia went to get her hair done at Madeline's on Lawrence, right near Krause's. When she was finished, they sat at the bar with Jack Helton until midnight. Thanks, Zozo. Yeah. So Sophia went to get her hair done at Madeline's on Lawrence, right near the Krauses. When she was finished, they sat at the bar with Jack Helton until midnight. Saturday morning, Mildred lay in bed while Sophia got dressed, so they were roommates, for work, then listened to her footsteps down the hall. Well, if they were roommates, how come if it started in the apartment, why didn't she hear anything? Let's just see what it says. Thanks, Lee D. Saturday morning, Mildred lay in the bed while Sophia got dressed for work, then listened to her footsteps down the hall. They faded, then got louder. I forgot my work shoes, Sophia said. She reached down under the bed, her honey hair and Mildred's eye level. I envy you, she said. You get to stay in bed and sleep. The way her face looked then, soft, the girl's prettiness transforming and almost before her eyes to a deep and mature beauty hovered in Mildred's memory as she drifted back to sleep. Mildred was slow putting on her uniform in the basement, so that's the roommate, in the basement locker room. She didn't get up on the floor until after 5 p.m. Sophia had already gone. The Purple Cow was packed all evening with people glad not to cook the night before Easter. Around 7, the supervisor asked Mildred if she'd called Sophia to come back in for a second shift. So they're wondering if they had called. Thanks, Barbara Smith. Yep, the Freak family's awesome. Gene Fishes and all.
I really do love the freak community.
Gene Fish, my younger sister. Oh! Yeah. Yeah. So they called in to see, they asked, around 7, the supervisor asked Mildred, the roommate, hey, have you called Sophia to come back in for a second shift? Sophia's voice was slow over the phone. So she asked if she would call her. So then when she called Sophia's voice was slow over the phone. I'm too tired, so tired, she said. I'm drinking a Coke. I'm going to finish it, and then I'm going to bed. So she didn't want to come back to work again. She's just exhausted. Sophia's third floor was open, and she was fully dressed, sound asleep, on top of the bedspread at 10:30 when Ruth Combs, we already read this part in the actual newspaper articles, when Ruth Combs came by to borrow an iron. So that's crazy. That was 5.5 hours later after that phone call, after she drank the Coke. So probably 5 hours later she's asleep wearing the same clothes. Good night, Barbara. So Sophia's third floor door was open and she was fully dressed, sound asleep. So it wasn't even locked or anything. On top of the bedspread at 10:30. When Ruth Combs came to borrow an iron. Combs lived across the hall and felt she knew Sophia well enough to wake her up. Sophia dragged herself to her feet and sleepily fetched the iron, then fell back on the bed face first. When Ruth returned the iron at 11:15, just 45 minutes later, Sophia hadn't moved. She softly set the iron down and borrowed some ink to write a letter. As she went out, she turned the light off, but she left the door open. Oh, jeez. Well, it was unlocked anyways. Wouldn't make any difference. Half an hour after midnight, 12:30, right, a.m., when Cincinnati Police Detective Bob Meldon reached the third floor landing, the blood was everywhere. It was as if it had exploded from her body, its force rupturing her neck in a jagged tear. The blood was so thick that the color of the girl's dress, her features, even the color of her hair were indiscernible. From the marks on the wall, it looked as if she had struggled to climb it. Like a chicken, Meldon thought. Not sure what that means. Now she was sitting up, arms still, beckoning weakly as if she were trying to summon help. Well, see, this is crazy shit. I think that's why, you know what? I think she was actually killed in the bedroom and staggered to the hall as the artery was still just firing, and then she collapsed out there. Meldon leaped the last 2 stairs, but as he approached, the life went out of her dazed eyes, and her head turned towards the wall and slid to the baseboard. Meldon's head heard the last hiss of the air escaping her lungs. One of the officers at the scene appeared to be drunk. Wavering slightly on his unsteady legs, he stood above the dead girl and pointed. "I know that girl," he said. And then he said, she goes with black people at Krause's Cafe. Cincinnatians learned of Sophia Baird's murder on the front page of the Enquirer on the morning of April 26, 1943. Yep. The story, illustrated by a snapshot of Sophia beside a close-up of blood stains in the hotel hallway, began. A pretty blonde waitress was brutally stabbed and slashed to death by a black man in a downtown hotel early yesterday. From the beginning, the search for the mysterious black man dominated the investigation. The police had 2 witnesses who said they saw a black man in the hotel shortly before and immediately after they heard Sophia's screams. Fred Proctor, the hotel handyman, was one of the witnesses. He told police this story. At 11:45 p.m., he heard footsteps. Wow, that's crazy, because that's only 30 minutes after the roommate was in that apartment, right? Wasn't it 10:30, then 11:15? So at 11:45 p.m., he heard footsteps on the 4th floor stairway. He opened his door and peered over the banister. 10 steps down stood a dark-skinned man in a gray top coat and a dark hat. The man looked up at him, his face illuminated by the light bulb in the hallway. He had a pencil mustache on a slender face. Proctor estimated he was about 35 years old, 140 pounds, and 5'10". The man said, "I want to see Miss Baird. They want to know about getting jobs at Wright's." I'm not sure what Wright's is. Proctor assumed he meant Sophia and Mildred, but he said, "There's no one up here." See, he said Baird, but her last name is Baird. I mean, that's how he wrote it. He assumed he meant Sophia and Mildred, but he said, "There's no one up there." The man turned and went down the stairs. Proctor said he started back to bed, but after a few minutes he began to wonder why a black man would be looking for someone in the middle of the night. I don't know why that would, why that's weird, but this is what the article says. He went downstairs to the office where Mrs. Bezina was lying down on her couch, but neither she nor her daughter-in-law, Mary, had seen anyone. Puzzled, Proctor sat in the kitchen for 5 minutes, then went back to bed. According to the newspaper, Ma Bezina said that she and Mary picked up the early edition of the Sunday paper, which had arrived just after midnight, and began to read it. So, a little after midnight, they're reading the paper. 36 years later, Adrian Baird stopped reading. 36 years later, Adrian Baird stopped reading right there. In October 1979, Adrian received a package from Cincinnati containing photostats of the 36-year-old newspaper articles concerning his sister's death. He had known only that her murder had never been solved. Now he knew there was something very strange about that failed investigation. I kind of wonder if it was even a black person at all. It seemed like it was, I don't know. Adrian had grown up in a town where all blacks were expected to be gone by dusk. There was a hanging tree on the edge of town for emphasis. Jeez. He had also studied the history of American race relations at Vanderbilt University, and he had read the articles, he thought. In 1943, whether in Elk Valley or Cincinnati, finding a strange black man in a white hotel at midnight would have caused about as much commotion as if they'd woke up to find a snake in their bed. I mean, it was a totally different time back then, you know. That's crazy. Yet, here it was in April 26, 1943 edition of the Cincinnati Enquirer, moments before his sister was murdered, the hotel operators did not respond to reports of a black prowler with panic, but by reading the Sunday paper. Adrian simply did not believe it. Yeah, that kind of makes sense, you know, because back then, but maybe not there, though, you know, like where, see, this was like a seedy part of town, just shit's going on. Maybe they just didn't care that much, you know. Hey, Lanky Tor. See, there you go. Look at Lanky Tor. Welcome new subscribers. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. The welcoming mod, Lanky Tor Brown Almighty. Yeah, it's kind of shitty, you know. Okay. Soon after his first investigative trip to Cincinnati in early 1980, Adrian Baird got a disturbing phone call. "Are you Adrian Baird?" the caller said. "Yes." "Stop your investigation," the voice said. "You won't complete it." Adrian heard the line click, then go dead. I think I might have been onto something a minute ago. In Cincinnati, Adrian had discovered enough to understand just how sinister his sister's surroundings had been before she died. Interviewing former Cincinnati police. See, here's the thing is, you know, what if, Sophia is witness to something that she shouldn't have been witness to, living in that area with all those politicians and police officers and all these different people that were doing stuff that you get caught doing it and it makes it to the paper, you're done. And maybe that's what she was kind of scared about, wondering if somebody might have even said to her something, if you ever say what you just saw, this is going to happen to you. So she'll never say. She'll just say, "God, I'm so scared. I'm so scared. I'm so scared. I feel like something's going to happen to me." But she could never say what that was because she was threatened to never say that what she saw. You get what I'm saying? Yeah, I just said that. Dana Dane. I think she saw something before that, though. I think she saw something before she had that sick feeling. I think what it probably was is somebody had already said something, and then when she went downstairs for a little bit, she got a glimpse of the same guy, and maybe he kind of gave her a glance, and she got really freaked out at that point. Right? Yeah. Pretty wild. Pretty wild. So anyways, he got a call that said, "Stop your investigation," the voice said. "You won't complete it." Adrian heard the line click, and then it went dead. So Adrian's actually the brother, right? In Cincinnati, Adrian had discovered enough to understand just how sinister his sister's surroundings had been before she died. Interviewing former Cincinnati police, he put together a picture of the general character of the Biltmore surroundings and learned of Ma Bezina's connections to prostitution, racketeering, and her special standing with some of the city's police and politicians. He also learned that the Biltmore was managed by Ma's son, Lou Bezina, a heroin addict who had grown up on the East Coast boxing circuit with his father and had learned to support his habit through confidence schemes. He found it particularly interesting that Fred Proctor, the witness who reported seeing the black mystery man immediately before the murder, was himself on parole from the Ohio penitentiary. Hey, listen, tell us you saw a black guy running here, or we'll find something to put you back in there, Was himself on parole from the Ohio penitentiary, where he had been serving a sentence for armed robbery. Proctor was furloughed in the custody of the Bezina family. Something unexpectedly obvious was beginning to suggest itself to Adrian Baird. One of the few solid pieces of physical evidence discovered is going to be the hat, right? Or at the murder scene was a trail of blood. Because the hat's not solid. First from the bed in Sophia's room where she had been attacked to the landing where she died. Then from the body through the unmarked rear exit and down a back stairway used only by hotel staff. To reach the back exit door, it was necessary to first enter an inconspicuous door marked only with an apartment number. Yet the blood trail went to it without hesitation. I think that guy was bleeding, like I said earlier. I think that, I'm not sure what just happened there, but I think, is this 3? No. Oh, that's right, it was 8. I think she was bleeding, the guy was bleeding at the time. Okay, I gotta go back up here to see. Look at this crazy. That's on the bed there. Sophia, blood stains that coverlid of the bed on which she was attacked. So I think, like I was saying, I think in that room she was mortally wounded, and the person took off, and she just kind of staggered out of the house, and that's why she, she's in the hallway, not the house, but out of the into the hallway, and just went, blood was still coming out, and she just collapsed, was barely alive when the police got there. Yeah. One of the few solid pieces of physical evidence discovered at the murder scene was a trail of blood, first from the bedroom. That's what we're looking at right here. What we could do is take that and the first one. That's her right there, by the way, for those of you who came in late. And that's blood all over. I think she was in this corner on the ground, and, arterial spray was going everywhere, and she just collapsed, and, blood was everywhere. To reach the back exit door, it was necessary to first enter an inconspicuous door. It was almost like a fake apartment, only with an apartment number, yet the blood trail went to it without hesitation. Even, so the blood trail was ding, 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 just dot straight away. There was no missed turns, coming back, going, anything. Even the day after the murder, the question was obvious. The Enquirer addressed it in this way. The operators of the hotel said they could not explain the slayer's knowledge of the complicated way to exit. They say the only black person ever known to have been in the place was their regular porter. What puzzled Adrian was that, officially at least, the Black Prowler story was never aggressively questioned. The Bezanas, he learned on his visit to Cincinnati, had left for... And you know what's amazing? Remember when we were first going over those first articles? How they really stressed... I mean, it was like every other sentence by everybody was that it was a black person. It just kind of wanted to keep grinding that into your head. I was actually questioning why they were saying, weren't just saying suspect or using a man or other words, you know. So let's see where this is leading. I haven't, like I said, I don't read these beforehand. What puzzled Adrian was that, officially at least, the Black Prowler story was never aggressively questioned. The Bezanas, he learned on his visit to Cincinnati, had left for Maysville, Kentucky, the day after the murder and stayed for a week. Beyond brief statements about the Prowler, they were not interrogated. Later, as the police... It's almost like, you know, remember how the Bezanas are connected to the police? It almost sounds like they said, hey, take off for a week. We'll handle this. We'll get, you know... Beyond brief statements about the Prowler, they were not... I mean, why would you leave for a week when something like this happened? They were not interrogated. Later, as the police drummed up one black suspect after another, including the members of the Boogie Woogie Band and Krause's Fred Proctor and Mary Bezana, could not agree on whether the suspects looked like the man they saw in the hotel. Yeah. So it's almost like they said, get out of town. We're gonna deal with this, but they don't have anything to do with it. Like the Bezanas don't have anything to do with it. It was like a hit on her for knowing something, and they just told her to get the hell out of here because they have a connection, and they worked it, and that's why they say, I don't know what they look like. Because if they were really part of it, they'd have a story to pin it on somebody, right? It all seemed suspicious to Adrian. In his job at the Department of Education, he had investigated dozens of funding fraud cases. He thought he could smell deception. And then there was the anonymous phone call. He had been asked very pointed questions about the Bezanas around Cincinnati. He had even sensed that some of the people he had interviewed grew uncomfortable at the mention of their name. In his own mind, he connected the call to his Cincinnati trip. Maybe he was onto something. But that night, as he tried to sleep, he also wondered if it wasn't something better left alone. He had a wife and family and sensitive job. The threat on the phone was unnerving. What was he trying to prove anyway? His sister had been dead for nearly 40 years. Here he was, spending weekends he should have been giving to his family and money donated by one of his brothers. What could be gained now? Just as he was thinking he would take the caller's advice, something else stirred in him, deeper than the waves of anxiety. Even a small boy 200 miles from the scene of the crime, he had felt the murder of his sister as an invasion of his most private inner sanctum. He felt it as a violent assault on his whole family. In the end, it destroyed what held them together. For 37 years, he had suffered from what happened early that Easter in Cincinnati. Now that he had begun to move towards retribution, even if only in his own mind, he knew he would not be able to stop until he found it. Now, that's pretty cool, random newspaper story. But hey, there's two more, but I'm not going to do those tonight. Maybe we'll do them either the first part of tomorrow or at the end. as everybody's falling asleep, right? Crazy, huh? See that, everybody? All our minds. So I don't know, the Bezina started to sound a little bit more dodgy at the end there, but I just think it's, at this point, my perception is that they're just a, that they are kind of like involved with all the seedy people in town. So if Joe over here wants to do a hit in the hotel, they're going to make it easy for them, right? They're going to kind of, leave town. They're not going to make any waves. It's just they're all part of one big community. So you kind of wonder what Sophia had gotten into, what she saw. Oh, thanks, Mary. I don't know. Sometimes I have to read it again. When I do my own narrations for my Nefarious channel, which I've got like 3 scripts already read. I just have to edit the video. I have to, you redo it until you say it right. Yeah, that's crazy. So the next one will be called, the title is Nothing But Ashes. Yeah. They should have, that's too bad they didn't test the blood of down that hallway. Okay? Because I have a feeling that it was a different, might have been the same blood type, but it was from a different donor. Yeah. Dark Times it's called. Dark Times. Alright, everybody. That is going to be it for me tonight. I thank you guys all for showing up. Thanks for supporting the channel. Kicking some ass this month. I've got Sharon. Is that today too? Oh, and Karen Kerr sent a cat eye donation on PayPal, but that was, when was that? Just right in the middle of the day today. It was pretty amazing. And then Karen Whelan and Sharon Dion. And Sharon wrote, donation money, Shazzy D, trying to save you, YouTube, taking a percentage and paying taxes for a donation. Of course, I just said what her real name was, but, Shazzy D, thank you. Didn't mean to do that. Well, I did mean to, I just didn't realize it. That's a pretty interesting one. So it's kind of it worked out pretty well. I didn't read anything except just a couple sentences from the, but it worked out well doing it the way we did it, because we actually read the original articles that you could even see, like, wow, remember I was even just randomly saying how they just kept trying to push the narrative of a black person. And then, I skipped through a couple of them because they were just repeats, and then we went on to the actual story being told. And then when you go through that, it sort of has a feeling like that's where he might be going. I don't really know for sure, but I got two more chapters. So, all right.
Yeah. Thank you, Zozo. Zozo again. Truth Sleuth. Brittany. Zozo. Atacord 21 became a channel member. Barbara Smith. Noel Girl. Scott Holland. Michelle Nicholas, Pitcat, Claudia Neubauer, Kathy Mellon, Ashley, classical guitarist, Rita Schaefer, Joshua Long, Claudia Neubauer, Dustin Schaefer, Jessica Schubach, Leah Fernandez, Barbara Smith, Gene Fish, Bozo, Lee D, and Barbara Smith. And Jessica Schubach and Leah Furness are doubles.
All right. Awesome. Yeah, we'll do get those other two done tomorrow, and get on to some other stuff. But yes, if you guys want to join the channel, go ahead and do so. But everybody that's on the screen right now is pretty much already a member, I think. Rhonda Young's the only one out there that isn't. Just kidding. Yeah, my little sound effect thing is really laggy. It doesn't work the way it normally does. Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting, and yeah, it's kind of interesting that they give you the actual. I just almost want to look for that one article in the Inquirer back then that might have had that picture just for forensic, just to kind of see what angle she was sitting at. Thank you, Lanky Tor Brown Almighty. All right, so by the way, everybody out there, the moderators, we're gonna try something new. We're not removing any comments that are, even if they're something you don't agree with or something. And if you get in an argument with somebody, you don't get to just sort of remove them because they're arguing with you. Because they don't get to do that, and you were arguing with them. The only thing I want you guys to delete and remove are going to be the trolls. Like on troll night when they come in. Well, Lanky Tor, you don't really ever do that, so don't worry about it. Just the actual troll people.
Be safe.
Is what I'm talking about. The ones that come in bashing the channel. The weird stuff where they come in and start typing in 1,000 different characters and being stupid. You can delete those comments. But only hide the actual trolls that show up. All right, everybody. So make sure you wash your hands. Maintain your social distancing. Wear a mask. And for God's sakes, if you want to, take the shot. Take the vaccine. Now, if you're one of the people who doesn't want to take the shot, don't ever try to convince anybody else not to merely because you don't want to. Okay? Because all reasoning and scientifically means that you should take the shot. It's just really obvious, right? So don't try to convince somebody else not to take it because you don't feel like you want to take it, all right? I think that's irresponsible. But go ahead and not take it if you don't want to. Okay, if you're somebody that doesn't want to do it, nobody can force you to do it. It might cause issues. You might not be able to go to certain places and things like that until we get this sucker under control. But, All right? Man, you guys are the slowest chat I've ever seen. Do I have it in slow mode? But anyways, all right, everybody. Thank you very much. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Really appreciate it. And as I always say, everybody, until next time, be safe out there. And a 2 and a 3. Yeah, I've been doing this true crime thing for quite a while now. And during this whole time, I have not seen one person that is a crime dissector, flag rejector. I'm a certified human lie detector. I'm gonna get you, who wanna set you? If you try and play me like an old projector, crime sector is my nectar. Professor Green is gonna give another lecture. Crime collector.
Hey, all like I know, Mary Poppins. You have my same name. I'm Mary Lou. You're Mary Poppins. Yay!
On his pector,
Oh, boy, Jesus.
Just remember, I've a temple fucking check.
I have no agenda. No agenda.
And I'll serve it to you straight without the blender. And in the end, I'm gonna send ya on a mission to reveal the true offender. Yeah, so I'll just get right back to work. All right, everybody? Talk to you.
All right, man, it's so cool. Mary Poppins has my same first name. She's another Mary. She's another Mary. She's another Mary.
Hey, Mary's a pretty common name, Mary Lou. Very common.
Gee, I just thought it was neat. Gosh, you're so mean, John Boy.
That was pretty good.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, Jesus. Another one of those? Ugh. Just goofing around the whole time. Not serious at all. Let me find that one.
Hey, thanks, Courtney Rob. Hey, I think Colleen's in this one. Jack and Jill went up the hill, each with a bucket of water. Jill came down with 250. Ooh! Little Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet, eating her clothes away. Along came a spider, sat down beside and said, "Hey, what's in the bowl, biatch?" Little Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet, eating her curds and whey. Along came a spider, sat down beside her and said, "Hey, what's in the bowl, biatch?"
That's really mean.
Can't do the hickory-dickory-dock one, but yeah. Hello? Welcome to the team. You don't have to know. I'll feel this stuff. Hey, this is what I got. Hey, I don't want to do so. You can't do too short either. I know the hole's too short, but I can't do it, you know? I can't do it because it's, you know... Walking down the street and I had to stop. Pick up the radio and drop the top. Walking down the street and I had to stop. Pick up the radio and drop the top. Ding, 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 ding. Walking down the street and I had to stop. Pick up the radio and drop the top. Walking down the Nope, can't do that one. Jeez. Can't do that one either, Lanky Tor. Can't do that one either. Good night, Shazzy D, and thank you. I'll let Gray know.
I already said thank you, though, Mary Lou. You don't have to let me know anything. I said it a few minutes ago.
Okay, jeez. So fast, with the DC damn of a rhymes or a drunk, I'd settle by a gram. Keep my composure walls, time to get loose, magnetized by the mic while I take my juice. Hello? Hello? Pinky, I'm a lyrical poet. Miami's on the scene, just like you didn't know it. My town, decorated on the bass sound. Let me shake it cold in the crowd, cause my style's like a chemical spill. These are rhymes you can listen and feel. Conducted and formed, such a hell of a concept. You make a hype. Can you run us through printers? Straight blades in the face, slice like a ninja, cut like a razor blade so fast. Or did you just say damn of a rhymes or a drug? I'd sell by the gram. I keep my composure, it's time to get loose. Magnetized by the mic, while I kick my juice. If there was a problem, go I'll solve it. Check out the hook or my DJ revolves it. Ding 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 ding. 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 The party is jumping, with the bass kicked in and the fingers are pumping. Quick to the point, cause the point no faking. Cooking MCs like a pound of bacon. Burning them, ain't quick and nimble. I go crazy when I hear the cymbal with a hi-hat, with a super tempo. I'm on a roll, time to go solo, rolling in my 5.0 with my rag top down so my hair can blow. Because it's on standby, waiting just to say hi. Did you stop? No, just drove on, flip on. Close to to the next stop. About to let, I'm headed to the next block. The block is dead, y'all, so I continue to A1A. Detroit Avenue, girls were hot, wearing less than bikinis. Rock men lovers, grabbing my McGeenies. Jealous? Cause I'm out getting mine. Shades with a gauge and vanilla with a 9. Ready for the jump on the wall, the jump out the nimble with a full of 8 balls. Gunshots rings out like a bell. I got 9 on the whole with shells falling on the concrete real fast. Jump in my car, slammed on the gas. Whoppa, avenues packed. Time to get away from the attacker's check. Police on the scene, you know what I mean. They pass it up in front of the dope beans. That's what the problem, yo, all solved it. Check out the hook, DJ revolved it. Hey, Lanky Tor, thanks, Lanky Tor Brown Almighty. AKA Lanky Jen, AKA hell, I don't remember the rest of them. Hello? That's it, right? Gee, I wanted to sing some more.
Well, that's too bad. I need to go to sleep, Mary Lou. Jesus.
Okay, good night, everybody.
Jeez, don't sound so damn sad about it, for God's sake.
Well, I'd like to talk about some other things if I could now. I was really wanting to talk about the sanitation issues we're having here in the...
Oh, God, would you shut the hell up?
Gosh, you're so mean to me.
Now, that was just fine there, John Boy. She just started to go on and on and on. All right, everybody. Thank you guys very much. Again, wear your mask. Maintain your social distancing. Wash your hands. And, for God's sakes, get the shot when it's available. All right, everybody? Be safe out there.